Let's include the Preseed file. Make sure that the configurations are correct, if they look proper. If they don't look sane, then we have to fix them. Example of this would be having a default Ubuntu user with the default password. So if they forget to change the password, if they don't know the password, then I think bad things might happen.
There's currently a default Ubuntu user password.
There is?
Yeah.
Actually, there is.
Sorry, can you repeat
The deployed node is the default password?
Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Sorry, chat.
Default user
the problem, no?
So the Preseed has a default Ubuntu password. So
Ubuntu user Ubuntu password.
so
That's, default passwords. That's like 1987.
yeah. So,
AIX, welcome to the world of Unix.
and if they forget to change the password, then we're basically screwed.
And how would they change that password right now?
Well, my idea was have them block the user, then when they first log in, then have them change the password.
That's better than never prompting them to do it, but people may never log into this machine as
Sure.
Ubuntu. They apply their config management and create all their users and never log in.
Yeah, or if you maybe write a tool to,
The first person that logs in may not be the.
yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah, it may not be the admin.
What's the person login in? Is this purely limited to Juju or something else? I mean,
This is the Preseed that comes with Cobbler for Ubuntu.
Yeah.
The Juju builds on top of that,
so
correct?
what I'm saying is, does it actually need to have a user, or can you just do key-based?
A user, yes.
Does
A
anyone-
password, no.
Yeah.
I don't believe we should be putting a default password in there. We should maybe comment it out with a, here's how to generate a new one. But I don't see any good reason to just be leaving people with a system that is that easy to.
Yeah.
So we're not using that user anywhere downstream, it's just default and copy.
What? We're not using it, we're not relying on it?
Yeah, that's.
No, because everything, if you're talking about the way Juju uses it, Juju basically precedes, gets on top of the Preseed. So
Yeah, okay.
it's all post, during install, first boot stuff.
Should we make
Which is
it an
why-
option to use an SSH key, and if not, then not have a login at all?
Maybe, but I guess there's two different problem spaces to me. There's the Juju Preseed and the generic install Ubuntu Preseed that people will build on top of.
Yeah.
And the generic one, I think, shouldn't have any default user password. The Juju one kind of needs to, because it needs to look kind of like a cloud,
Yeah.
essentially. So Juju SSH works. But it can absolutely do that without a password. It should not have a password.
Right.
Because Juju installs the keys.
Why are we doing, that's what I'm saying, but we shouldn't be setting a password at all.
Exactly.
If we need a method to do it, then the user should supply a key.
Yeah. I don't think we ever need that Ubuntu,
Okay.
the default password. Like,
So
default
we-
passwords are bad.
Saying no password?
That's what I'm saying, but I'd like,
I haven't heard
feedback
an
on
argument
that.
that counters that.
Well, I don't think it, if you just install the Cobbler server, how do you log into the system after
Yeah.
you've installed it?
just install the server with Cobbler. So you need to decide how you want to do that. It's the same, this is the same exact round and round argument we have of why don't we do SSH on the CD, because we can't let people log in without generating keys. We don't want to enable password auth. It's the same thing. They need to decide.
The trouble with Cobbler is that with a web interface, you have to have a password, you can't log into the web interface.
That's the web interface, and we need to address that, I think, separately.
Yeah, but if you, apart from the web interface, it should be key-based.
Right, we're talking about the system users.
Yeah, the
The
system
deployed
user
system
Preseed.
users, how does the default Orchestra Preseed do it now? It makes a default password that you have to remember to change.
Right.
And when I say remember to change, you have to go edit the Preseed.
Right.
Is it editable now? I saw a bug on that. They weren't editable.
I mean, user and password is not, there's no option on the Cobbler systems to edit what the user and password want. So if we want to make them kind of dynamically, we would have to create our own snippet for providing user password, I guess.
Right now, there's some bit of Preseed that does that, right? Like just has a hash of whatever
Yeah.
Ubuntu
Yeah.
is. And the way you would update it is figure out how to generate a hash and go and replace
And
that. So it seems like
we will do that on a snippet. I
we're
guess.
asking them to do something pretty strange.
What?
We're asking users to do something pretty strange if they
Maybe
leave
we
it
can
in.
script it, so we ask them a simple question for
We could.
possibly.
It's not a bad idea, the snippet, like you're saying.
Yeah.
We
I
can
mean,
have
we
it-
already asked them for the Cobbler user and password. Next
We
will
do.
be the default system user's password.
Yeah.
That gets generated in the Preseed. That installed
Yeah, we could
instead
do
of just
that.
copying the Preseed like we're doing now.
Yeah, we could say, all your Ubuntu servers that you deploy with this will have, do you want them to have a default Ubuntu user?
Or we can,
What do you want the password
we
to
could
be?
encode it and generate a hash and pass it through Gither metadata, and then just grab that password from there. That would be easier.
If we're going to do that, I'd really like to see a key option.
Yeah.
So I guess that, you know, when people aren't using Juju, they're probably deploying with config management, and that's going to deploy keys and do set up Kerberos or whatever else they have. I feel like if they don't do that, we should leave them with a system that works, and asking them for a key. When can we do that?
We'll give them an option, say, do you want a key or do you want to set a password?
When do they get asked that option?
When they install Orchestra.
When they install the provisioning server? That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that'll be awesome the first time, but then like in 6 months, they'll be like, where's that key? You know, we have to update the key because that guy left.
I'm a big fan of SSH import ID.
Me too.
Have a Launchpad account or a URL that puts your key somewhere, but it'd be sweet to just say, my Launchpad ID is Kirkland. Just
We
put
can't
that key
couple our systems to
everywhere.
Launchpad.
Huh?
We can't couple our systems to Launchpad.
It's not, I mean, it can be coupled to Launchpad by default, but SSH import ID supports any URL you want to, URL mask you want to put there, it just defaults to that one. It's a configuration option, Etsy,
Cobbler will serve up
Whatever.
arbitrary files for us, won't it?
yeah, absolutely.
So we can conceivably add that file, add keys as a file. So during the
Yes.
install, yeah, ask for a Launchpad ID or paste your SSH keys here. That's fine, that's during the install, but that is like ancient history after 3 months of using the system.
Yeah.
And where do I go to
Update that.
keys?
Yeah.
UPKG reconfigure.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's the understood way to do it.
but it's also, it's still not
And if
really
you- if you
discovered.
Wait,
want to
no, this is in
bypass that
Cobbler.
and change the procedure yourself manually, then
So-
you can do that too.
We don't really have to solve the problem right now. It's a work item.
Okay, a work item is to replace the current username and password with something more secure.
Yeah. So one thing I want to bring up is Juju Colate charm. So when you bootstrap a bare metal system, you can use, I think when the Colate charms are ready, you can have like stuff for NRP, rsyslog, and anything else you want to put in there, right?
Yep.
So I don't really think you really, until that happens, after that happens, I don't think you really need a client package.
Oh, the Ubuntu Orchestra client,
Yeah,
but only for Juju systems.
right.
We're
But,
still supporting non-Juju installs
Sure.
with Orchestra.
Yeah.
okay.
It's actually a pretty important use case.
So in that case, a lot of that stuff might be driven by Cobbler as well.
Well, in that case, if you don't want the client, just remove it from the UU Preseed and just keep it for the regular Preseed.
Sure. Another one on my list is IGSM, obviously.
Can I back up just one half step?
Sure.
How is Orchestra client looking like? Do we want to look at all the pieces of it, add pieces, remove pieces?
Yes.
So what do we want to do with that?
I have to look at what is in there Orchestra client?
Basically, yes, RC log and installing dependencies.
Like what kind of dependencies?
Like, it's installing the Ubuntu Orchestra, no cloud we need. Obviously, we need OpenSSH server, the common stuff from Orchestra, Python software
Cloud
properties.
init?
Why cloud init?
Because in Juju we use cloud init.
This isn't Juju. So we can take that out.
Yeah, but at the moment that's the way how we're installed because that also contains the RC log.
We could make an Orchestra client Juju, and
Yeah,
that depends on Orchestra client. Add the Juju bits.
yeah.
So we
So-
can split that.
Do we need to look at Orchestra and anywhere where it's currently quite tied into Juju, so the client being one of them? But for example, at the moment, we create management classes on install for Juju, so that makes a huge assumption about what you can use the Orchestra server for.
Yeah.
So maybe we should provide that as option
Yeah.
rather than default.
I think it's fine to just create them. I mean, it's a little self-promotion for Juju. Like, what are those? Does it anger users?
I think it would make sense to separate it and recommend it. That way it is installed by default, but you can install it without it. You can purge it and, you don't lose anything. So, that's basically the way we've handled all the other tools that Orchestra depends on. Most of them are recommendations. You can live without our syslog, but sure is cool to have remote syslogs, and actually we had stubs for Orchestra management. We've got a package that used to depend on Puppet and M-Collective and Factor, and right now that package is just empty. It would make sense to maybe move some of the Juju-ish stuff there. Juju-ish. Juju
It's okay,
stuff.
we've all accepted. We're gonna say some things we don't want to say. I'm in favor of bringing those down to the minimum required and then having the recommended thing be separate. I almost want to go stronger and say like if it comes in on the install, we're making way more than a recommendation, right? Like if it's in the default install, it's not a dependency, but it's more than a recommendation.
Yeah, but we're gonna need to, to get it all MIR'd and on the CD,
Yeah.
the really cool default Orchestra installation is probably gonna become kind of sucky, or not as featureful, colorful, and then we're gonna need some dash plugins or dash extras packages to pull in the rest of that. Because I'm gonna put it on mine, but to get it on the CD, we're gonna need to remove some of the niceties, I'm afraid, which is a bummer. Or we're gonna need to do a lot more work around the MIRs to get them all promoted. Then it went from
Let's look at packaging Orchestra client.
Excuse me?
The package we're talking about, we were just talking about this Orchestra client, right?
I was talking about all of them, actually. Orchestra server too, like James was saying.
I'm really only concerned with exactly what you just said, the ability to mirror. We decided in the last session we're going to put it in main. We're going to have to chop some things down to be able to do that. And I'd like to pare down what gets installed by default, maybe even a little further, if we can. Our syslog stuff has to stay, and that's in main, and that's easy. But what are we going to lose?
Well, we can pull up the Debian control file and take a look easily enough.
Our syslog's already in there. So, while Dustin is that, we'll just continue on with the list. There's ITSM support, IPMI support.
IBMI is supported. Do you want that in order to be able for Cobbler to start in subsystems?
Yes.
It's some fence agents.
Okay.
They already have the script for IBMI, so that's what we should be using and testing.
Yeah.
But we don't have access to power devices.
We need to test that somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe Calzada would like to help out.
That only covers ARM.
Well,
Orchestra is going to be deployed on all kinds of systems, and that includes, those dense blade servers and the rest of it. And
Yeah.
the thing I've learned about IPMI is power on, power off.
Yeah.
Almost the same across systems.
Okay.
Does need more testing, it's really.
Yeah, I need
You might have it. You can line it.
Yeah.
Right, for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I'll have the thing up too.
Just lost the screen.
New video.
I'm coming, sorry. I was gonna pull up the, I mean, if it's reasonable to take a look at.
Yeah, this is.
So just before we move
plus and
on
minus
from
one
my
as well.
PMI, is there any particular work items that we need to document?
Just test the
Testing.
messages for that.
Testing it, yeah.
Because I mean, up to this point, we haven't been able to really be able to access to our power management network from our Orchestra server.
Can you speed up by 6 inches? Perfect. Oh no, his head was blocking.
Another on my list is improved monitoring. We had a whole spec on Oneric that we never got to. Basically, I want to complete that spec now.
So, the way I think we have limited time, quite limited actually, for this cycle. I think the focus should actually be on fixing all the bugs that have been raised in
Yeah,
Cobbler thus far first.
Yep.
The monitoring story is pretty well supported by the Juju story. Not everybody's going to drink the Juju Kool-Aid, but we want people to try it out. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
The Juju
Ladies and gentlemen, but we want to be, we hope they will, and we think that's going to be the best experience for them. So I don't know that we need to enrich the experience beyond, let's make it easy to add Preseed bits, but like, we kind of had this idea before we had Juju talking to Orchestra that we were going to do a lot of that in Orchestra to make the rollout of a big network easier. And we're saying the way to do that is actually Juju. We're selling that story. So putting it all in Orchestra 2, even though it might be easy, that's not a great use of our time.
But that would be the same approach that Chuck mentioned with our RC stock. Like we can have you manage the RC stock, and we don't want it from the Orchestra side, but someone might want that from the Orchestra side.
We can make it easy, and we shouldn't take anything out that we already made easy. I'm just talking about resources.
Sure, but
we're not going to get resources to do that. We didn't get them last cycle either.
well, I didn't have time.
Yeah, exactly. And you didn't have help.
I didn't have time.
I don't need help, is what he's saying.
So, with that bits, it's plugins for OpenStack for RabbitMQ. I'm going to be doing plugins anyways for OpenStack.
Plugins.
For RabbitMQ?
Huh?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, checking if RabbitMQ is working, checking to see if...
Oh, yeah.
That's all great.
It's just all on the charm.
Innocuous
That's
stuff that will help our OpenStack charms.
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel that's a little out of scope for Orchestra. We have some sessions on what charms we're going to focus on and spend our time on.
Okay.
Right, George?
What's that, I'm sorry?
Well, there's an OpenStack Juju Charm session tomorrow.
There's a charm school workshop tomorrow, but we kind of went through what charms we were going to work on yesterday, but I think you should probably add that to that
It's already there.
to-do list.
It's already
You were there.
Yeah.
You signed up, so we don't really need to do anything in Orchestra, right?
No, it's part of...
Okay. Issue handling.
Anyways.
Moving on.
So storage setup, AOE, iSCSI, testing an ARM. Last cycle we added Cobbler support for ARM. We haven't done anything else with it. So that needs to be tested. Scaling, it depends. 20, we need to test how much load that Orchestra can take.
So the word on the mailing list is it starts to break down in the many thousands of nodes because it keeps everything in memory.
Yeah.
But that's only
Which one was
because
this? Cobbler?
just scale it. How many nodes how far can we push Cobbler?
Yeah.
And the word on that is the several thousand nodes.
Okay.
So we're going to have a hard time testing that. We maybe should try.
We should
just add them all and see what happens. But it's kind of a known property. It keeps everything in memory.
Yeah.
So it will scale up with memory to a point.
Okay.
What keeps everything in memory?
Cobbler.
What part of Cobbler?
Everything. Everything you see in the web interface and the API is all in memory and syncs
The
to disk.
MySQL backend?
There's no, well, there is, but that's just a persistence storage. It's not a runtime database. So there's actually a Mongo backend, and there's a
Okay.
MySQL one, and several others. But they really don't solve the problem of if I have 10,000 systems, I have 10,000 JSON files in memory.
Okay, and 10,000 JSON files, any idea how much memory that takes? I mean, can the recommendation be if you need 10,000, you need 64 gigs of memory on your Cobbler server?
What we know is that that's the reason that that satellite is moving away from, our spacewalk is moving away from Cobbler, essentially.
Okay.
Is that people get to the many thousands of nodes and the single server, or even the two, they're synced. Just, they have to keep scaling it up, and that's expensive. It's a known limitation. It's being discussed as possibly something that can go away, but
Okay.
to
That
your
might- that
point,
might be-
scaling out, the limitations are going to be in the many thousands, and we'd love to have somebody try that.
That can't be too hard to fix, surely.
It's a pretty big, cobbled together code base, no pun intended. So I don't know if I would boast too much about that. We could probably fix it, but it might end up being rewriting half of it. So give Robbie a work item to rewrite Cobbler.
So, I mean, I'll put an item in here to test it with a few thousand fake systems, see where it breaks, and run it.
How much it uses.
Yeah, run it in EC2 and run bigger and bigger machines until we find out what our limit is, and maybe we document that. You know, if you need more than 20,000 systems,
Yep.
you're going to need more than one Cobbler server.
Okay.
You know, and you may want to break those down into a couple of different instances of Cobbler.
Indeed.
Be an interesting EC2 build.
Excuse me?
That could be an interesting EC2
I've fired up the biggest EC2 once for an hour or two, $2 for a machine that's as big as my house. That's kind of cool. You know, for an hour.
Solar.
Yeah, solar powered.
So last on my list is $6. Since this is LTS, then
Yeah, we had a lot reported near the end of 11-10 cycle.
Yeah.
I was watching them. Somebody seems to have done a pretty strong review of it and pretty much trashed it. So the security bugs are troubling.
yep.
I think we took a position of it's on a private provisioning network, so that's where it should live. But we should at least look at what we can do to mitigate those.
Yeah.
I'm troubled by the bug list right now.
I haven't looked at it yet. So.
All
It's
right.
mostly Cobbler, I should say, too.
Yeah.
Like, the other pieces of Orchestra are largely just pointing things at Cobbler, so.
Can we look at the Debian control manifest of Orchestra and
Yeah.
maybe take a few notes of what should be moved around or adjusted? So this is how it looks right now. Source package is Orchestra itself. We've got a common, which gets installed on all clients and servers. So it's add user, SSH client, OpenSSL, GNU LTS, or TLS for SSL stuff that we're doing. We're recommending NTP, basically because we're doing the syslogging. It is kind of important for the machine's timestamps to be in sync.
Why do you need OpenSSH client on the Orchestra clients?
Because it doesn't install SSH by default.
No?
There's no SSH client by default.
Yeah, but why do we need one anyway?
What are we doing with SSH on the clients?
That's menus from the original Orchestra.
Okay, so I'm going to run this. If someone would take notes in here that just says the things to investigate in the Debian control file, the necessity of SSH client on the Orchestra clients. Okay. Orchestra itself is just a meta package that depends, it's a short name for Ubuntu Orchestra server, so that the next time we're giving instructions on how to do this, it's sudo apt-get install Orchestra. But Orchestra server is the more verbose term. It depends on the common. and it recommends the 4 pieces basically all in one. We haven't done any separated Orchestra testing. I don't know if that's something we want to take on. But so far, the requirements of Orchestra are pretty constrained. It's nice to have it all in one place. But theoretically, you could break these up. But there's a provisioning server, a management server, a monitoring server, and a logging server. Actually, the management server is empty, but that's what I think Juju should be. And we'll look at that when we get a little further down.
Yeah, it's hard to express anything, any dependency on Juju in Debian packages.
Yeah. So the client, the thing that comes in besides the default server seed, Biobu Capistrano, which should be removed. Actually, the clients don't need Capistrano.
Why is Boo there?
Why is Biobu there? That's part of the recommended best practice for a client, an Orchestra client, when I define these.
Could we,
We recommend them rather than depends.
Sure. Cloud init, which we said actually maybe a recommends as well. We
I
do
don't
need
even
an
think it's
OpenSSH
that.
server.
I think Cloud Init was purely to enable Juju on bare metal.
So, right, so maybe what we need is an Ubuntu Orchestra Juju client, or client Juju, or something like that, that
Yeah.
has that.
I'm almost more in favor of having them explicitly spelled out in the Preseed, but,
No.
no? Okay.
Then if it
No, I
changes-
I don't feel strongly about it. You say
Then if
no,
it changes across release or something, then Juju would have to know the release it's deploying or deal with it.
which it has to anyway, the Preseed changes.
So Dustin, what about having like, instead of, like a, Juju client, what about having like a bare metal client and a VM client?
VM client.
Well, I'm just thinking that, for, the use cases of like Biobu and some of those other packages, some people may not want it on their bare metal where they may want it in the cloud.
Yeah.
Right, but if we deploy bare metal with Juju, we still need Cloud Init, for example, so
Fair enough.
we would be deploying bare metal with a cloud package, and I think it's better like that.
You really need the cloud init as recommended. Because if we store it by default, then someone will never get the server on the network, you would just delay the boot of the server on the desktop.
Yep. I think it's only for Juju.
Yeah, it's only for Juju.
Yeah, that's fine, and I get the meta package for that, but that makes sense. It allows the Juju developers to
Python software
make some
properties should go to Juju as well.
What should?
Python software properties.
Yeah, that was something, we needed apt-add repository for a bunch of
I pretty much
charms.
install it on every machine.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was part of when I started this, it's part of what I was doing. I want Vim. I want frickin' real Vim, not VI tiny. I want
Well, it's
software
kind of this-
properties.
We do this on the server seed as well. It's
Well,
kind
right,
of
but it seemed
give me the
at
good
the
things.
time when this had less attention,
Yeah.
it's a whole lot more contentious to start adding things to C's. And so
Mm-hmm.
the way I was installing machines over and over and over again, I just basically exported to
Yeah.
this. So under recommends, we've got Biobu. Etsy Keeper, I think, is an interesting one, and to me really important on these machines, especially the Juju managed ones.
Actually, Juju managed ones, it shouldn't matter at all.
Yeah.
It's essentially doubling up on config management at that point. It's cool to have. I like it. I'm not saying.
Wait, why is it doubling up on? I don't see Juju doing anything like Etsy Keeper.
But that should all be encoded in the chart. I agree that it's nice and useful, and actually having double protection
Does
on bare metal is
Juju
kinda cool.
configuration management exist today?
Yeah,
In what?
shell scripts and Python scripts, and that's what it does. That's
Okay,
what
I'll keep
charms
my
do,
Etsy
right?
Keeper.
You can keep it. It's fine.
So Nagios, another thing recommended. PowerNap, another thing recommended for your power efficient data center. And then the rsyslog pieces, rsyslog, and then the secure, the SSL
Those are required?
rsyslog. No, those are recommends. So you're welcome to, can any and all of these that you want. Orchestra will continue functioning just fine without that. The only things that really...
You just won't have the consolidated logging.
Right, and
What gets
Vim
us-
should be in a recommends as well.
when does the client get installed right now? That gets installed via Preseed?
Yes, via Preseed.
So,
One of the work items in the Preseed is to move it from a static file in user share to a conf file in Etsy. so that the admin can go in and say, delete, delete, delete Ubuntu Orchestra client. Instead, I want to install manually these 2 or 3 packages. Or
Right now they have to make a one-off and change everything.
they do, and that's a trivial thing to fix, but we really should fix
Is that
it.
a bug open on Cobbler?
Doesn't you have an extra problem in Ubuntu Orchestra?
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
you said that-
Wait, so you're saying, sorry,
You said that the user could remove the Ubuntu Orchestra client from the Preseed, but I'm just reading a paragraph in the description that says it also includes some configuration necessary to make this work well out of the box. Is the user going to be stuck if he tries to do that? 'Cause he
Probably.
won't get that.
Potentially. I think there's some post-ins that we do in here that federate some things. I'd need to look at,
Yeah,
look at
that,
what's going on in there. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that happens in here that makes things work better, so.
Yeah, it's just basically that sort of stuff.
I mean, yeah, the recommendation is, yeah, you really shouldn't fuck with this because we've done what we can to protect you from yourself. But if you want to, fine, do it. So then the logging server itself is our syslog and this SSL syslog. I found myself quite addicted to CCZE now when I'm tailing logs. It's pretty freaking cool. This is the kind of thing that I'm betting once you start doing MIRs, you're going to drop. But that's going to be a shame because it really is slick. And we need to find an easy way to add it after the fact.
I don't know. One bug. Well maintained.
Yeah, it's in the universe. It's a bike shed tool. Monitoring, so the monitoring server is currently Nagios core and adds the web interface, CGI and an RPE server. This is, I don't think we need CCZE there, but this is one thing that if we want to get Nagios working, I think you had some work items around that for this cycle, Chuck. Mark offered to do some of this, but right now we're running Nagios. The web server is running. It's on a given port, or it's on a URL. The bits are installed there, but we're not actually monitoring anything. It's not set up as well as Cobbler is, where everything's just working, or our syslog, where everything's just working. With Nagios, it's all there, but we haven't actually set up any triggers.
When co-leakage harms start happening, that will be when a co-leakage harm probably.
Okay.
Say no, it's just not there.
Okay. So there's a little bit of work here. I don't know if there's more we want to add to monitoring, or is Nagios sufficient at this point? I mean, personally,
Yeah.
we got to get that one working before we start adding other monitoring and trending like Collectee or Munin or Ganglia.
I'm still on board with having Orchestra collect best practices rather running just a couple of Ubuntu servers. So just installing Nagios and saying that's our monitoring server is fine. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. The provisioning server right now is really where we put most of our effort, and that is currently Cobbler. We use distro info to get the list of supported distros, which is part of the cron job that automatically imports ISOs on a weekly basis. We use run1 to ensure that cron job, which might take a long time, doesn't overrun itself. We're using Squid. We dropped Squid Deb Proxy in favor of Squid with our own collection of best practices for...
Which we've still had problems with.
We still have problems. So there's still work to be done around Squid.
Squid is going to be updated to Squid 3 and Precise.
Is that going to help with the problems you've had?
I don't think so. It's the same problem you've had, which is that
The packages and the releases get out of sync.
And there's like no way to fix it for 4 hours.
Yeah, so that, I mean, basically, and that conversation started, but that needs to be James Troop and Robert Collins figure it out for us.
That's kind of what I heard, that's been worked out, but...
I think so. It involved some changes on the archive server itself and the way some of those files are served up and the expiration and like straight
Yeah,
up,
expires headers were wrong,
yeah,
essentially.
HTML headers.
Doesn't
But-
it always, don't we just ignore those? How can that be a problem? They go right through the
Apps
squid.
doesn't ignore them.
No, they go right through the
Squid
squid
doesn't
thing,
ignore
though.
them. Squid absolutely looks at expires headers.
No,
What
I don't know.
happens,
It just completely ignores them in its config. It just completely lets them through.
so has that fixed the problem? It's very amorphous, I don't know if
It
we
went
should
from
spend
something
much
that
time on
happened
it.
every day to something that only rarely happens sometimes, but we need to get it to never happen,
Yeah,
basically.
we need the caching service, so
Yeah.
it just brings up bad memories.
So that's the provisioning server plus the optional DNS mask, and again the colorize, which is useful if you're tailing the squid log, for instance. Management server is completely empty. This is a stub where I expected the Juju pieces to be before we really knew what the Juju architecture is. Now Juju Bootstrap makes the management server part not really make sense, but this is where we could put things like the Juju acquired and available profiles that could be added by this package or not. We could put some of the Juju pieces, maybe the Juju client in here as part of the server if you expect to be running some of those commands on your Juju server itself. But this one is completely empty. This does nothing right now.
Yeah, I think this one being empty and not being really what Juju does, right? It's not just management, and it didn't fit well in this package. So you brought up the management classes getting added automatically, and I've been sitting here sort of stewing over that, between points that there may be people who just want Orchestra and never want to see the word Juju. But I just don't know if we want to worry about
Encourage that, or?
I don't know if we want to worry about that until it happens, but it's worth considering here to split out just the bits of Juju into recommends, essentially, and allow them to say, please give me Orchestra without things that I don't want. I don't think we should care about it, honestly.
I don't either. You can do it that way if you want. This is a recommended package.
Mm-hmm. But at the management server, I think if it's not going to have anything in it and Juju doesn't fit at all,
We can delete it.
I think that might be a drop. Yeah.
So consider dropping that. So,
Can we go back to the?
I mean,
that's
the
end of
current
list,
changes
right?
we've made here kind of added a client, a Juju client. We moved these into, or moved these down to, oh wait. Yeah, we moved some stuff around there.
Also, the Ubuntu Orchestra common package is shipping Python some sort of modules on which we do the keys stuff that we have for our syslog and the cloud unique data we pass.
Where's that? It's in a post
That's
instance?
common. No, that's Python. I mean the keys that the encoding in base 64 and all the stuff that we pass to Kickstarter metadata is done in Python.
Okay, is that all right?
That's in dash common, and that's what I'm going to separate into its own package.
Okay. The key management part?
Yeah, let me check for a second.
Can we talk about the client again? The client package?
Mm-hmm.
So we're preceding that, and you're talking about possibly making it configurable, whether or not that gets preceded at all? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, so let me pull up the Preseed. That's actually.
Well, can we go back to the packaging for it again? Like the
Okay.
depends and recommends is what is,
For the client.
right, so
Okay.
currently it precedes it, and both the recommends and depends get installed.
Yeah, let me pull that up too. That's a symlink, isn't it? Yeah, so this is our Preseed currently in the right window, which is off. So let me swap those two. So defaulting actually these are some good things maybe we should look at, make sure these Preseeds are reasonable. So we're defaulting to English, US. These are the things that once we make it a conf file, you'll be able to change as a local administrator.
Where did this come from?
This
Or
was
initially?
this was my no questions asked pre-seed that we started with, which was just something
It
I
answers all
developed
the
over the
critical
years.
questions.
Excuse me?
It answers all the high questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you make it a conf file, could you dynamically pick up the locale from the server from say in the preseed?
We could. Yeah, that could be part of a post-it.
That locale is specifically a bug fix for EDSA keepers using Bazaar and Bazaar being very unhappy with not having a UTF-8.
What,
locale.
this?
Yeah, right?
No,
Oh,
that's so that you don't get that first question that is super
So how
critical.
come that didn't get saved? You know what I mean? Like, we had that bug where the system gets installed and then Etsy Keeper runs and says you don't have a locale.
Etsy Keeper doesn't respect that.
Oh, fantastic.
So I set it manually in Etsy Keeper.
Okay.
So we disabled the splash. We don't detect the keyboard. We assume that it's US, and perhaps we should automate that. Maybe you can take a note there about.
That's a massive pain in the arse for anyone else with US.
Yeah.
To always have to change the preseed
Okay.
account.
Well, that's all.
So
They
try
need
to
their
auto,
extra O's and E's.
That's all.
try to auto detect keyboard.
For the first time, you're gonna have something without one at all.
What?
For the first time, you're gonna have something without one at all, keyboard.
Okay.
So, I just.
So it's not gonna hurt to have it
It'll be
then.
fine.
Yeah,
Define it, it's not gonna find it.
We defaulted to the DHCP networking. We're setting the NTP server as ntp.ubuntu.com. I think that we've made a change at the tech board level for that to be something else. Soren? You're our tech board representative, aren't you?
I mean, I've memorized all of the meetings. Yes.
You should get right on that. So this is the kind of partitioning. Basically, we default to the default LVM partitioning, the way DI sets that up. We default to ext4. Basically, there's a big partition, there's a swap space, which is some multiple of your RAM. And we purged everything on the disk before, that was on there before. We default to the Linux server kernel. This is the user setup, which came up earlier. Default username is Ubuntu. The default password is Ubuntu. This is something that, again, once we make this a conf file, the user could set this accordingly.
They can't, it's trouble.
Huh?
Can I float a crazy idea? If we're going to dynamically generate preseed, can we have the Orchestra server hostings generate an SSH key for root and set this to that?
Not root, Ubuntu, but yes.
Ubuntu.
We don't log in as root.
No, I mean for
Yeah,
whichever
I see
user.
what you're saying.
Because then, if someone just installs it, from this machine, they'll be able to SSH to everything, which is
Right.
sufficient.
We do that actually already. We do it as the Cobbler user. No, as the Orchestra user. We do that, but perhaps we should do it as the Ubuntu too. No, we do it as the Ubuntu user. We do something just like that.
Then we can remove the password entirely.
Yeah, we know we need to do that, and I don't want to get into the implementation details of how.
Okay.
I'd like to raise one point. I don't like the idea of these being conf files, or at least they need to be managed in a way that you can modify them without being prompted. If it's a single thing and there's no config.d semantics on it, conf files suck, and I don't like going to that.
Because then the update, if we change that.
So should we
Yeah.
use snippets? Should we use snippets for this?
I would say snippets, or I'd use .d. I don't care, but I
Kind of the
don't
same
want
thing, yeah.
to be prompted on upgrade. And I have to change this file.
And we're going to change this file occasionally in SRUs. I mean, we find the default one is insecure.
So I mean, we're using a snippet for the Orchestra proxy, which gets the address, the squid address of the Orchestra proxy. So we could make better use of snippets here. I think you're
So
right.
I'd say a work item for that is to break it up into more snippets. Actually, I think it's a
Snippetize.
great idea. Just break it up into pieces. It's like .d essentially.
Yeah.
So that at least you have a less likely chance of what you changed
Yeah.
getting updated all the time, because, the top and the bottom.
So I don't like this option, but this was required to do some of the things with to actually use Juju, because Juju installed itself from a PPA by default every single time, so we had to do this so that Juju and Orchestra could play. This should really go away, or somehow be better configurable.
Yeah, we should think about that.
Okay.
It shouldn't be unauthenticated. I guess DI is different. You had to add the PA before
Yeah.
DI ran.
You know the P just by knowing it as a available URL.
Probably, yeah, you're supposed to, and this might have just been a hiccup during the Oneric cycle, but I know for a fact as we were trying to use Juju, and Juju would install itself from a PPA from time to time, my installation would just bomb because or my Juju deploy would just bomb because it was trying to do something from an unauthenticated PPA. Bootloader stuff is all pretty straightforward. Again, just the best practice is to get away from
By the way, we're way over time.
prompted.
Just so we're into people's breaks, so maybe we can
I'm
work
almost
on
done.
it to review this.
There's 20 lines left.
Okay.
Power off, client package. Go
We won't have
on
cloud in
it.
it anymore.
Yeah, and then the late command right down here is what does the key exchange, and then ultimately disable the Pixie to keep you from getting into a boot loop.
I have a question.
Should probably have the server team review our.
Because you asked for this. And
So,
we haven't
my
actually
big
had a
question is, I don't want to install recommends on Orchestra's client, right?
Right.
That should be configurable in whatever snippet that is that's installed on the client package on there.
Right here.
So can we somehow make the DOBU by default?
Part of that.
Yeah, because
Yeah, that's a good point you can take it to do there.
There's also an apt Preseed you can set that's just no install recommends essentially. Apt has that, so we can do that one too.
in the Preseed.
Like have it commented out.
Yeah.
It doesn't recommend, because a lot of server administrators don't.
All right, that's all there is to the
Yeah.
Preseed. So this probably needs to be looked at again now that we're going into an LTS. For a long time, this has been very functional to get a machine installed and the way I like a machine installed, but now we're looking at doing this for.
We have some users who are playing with this now, and we'll get some feedback during the cycle.
I've just put
that's fine.
a full review, and we'd have to do it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Once we've got something
Full
we're happy with. we'll
we need to
sit
let
down and
people
review.
go, guys.
Can we do another,
But
can we schedule something later? We need to. We've only
I
scratched
think
the
we
surface.
probably do need to talk more about this. I don't know if we covered all the next steps, but I don't know. At the same time, I want to say just like, let's fix the bugs and make sure it's secure, and these other things, refining it, we kind of did that last session.
There's still some feature stuff we need to discuss.
Like what?
Putting the bootstrap now in a container.
Yeah.
Machine reuse right now with Juju.
Is Monty
That
here?
sucks.
Monty's got a freaking awesome implementation of machine reuse using LVM snapshotting and kexec. It's kind of neat. So you
Yeah, no,
snapshot a
it is
machine
neat.
right at start.
You should give James credit for that.
Oh, is that James?
No, James Blair.
Oh, okay. Well, Monty contributed to me, so.
We have a Juju roadmap for 1204 session where that's going to be discussed
Sure.
for Juju related items. Were you talking about orchestra stuff too?
Well, I mean that Orchestra Juju.
Because I think the
machine
Juju orchestra provider needs some work, and that's kind of more on us than them.
Oh, one thing, all right, so just quickly, the Orchestra import ISOs.
Yeah,
We've talked to a few people that have installed Orchestra, and they're like, why the hell does
Why
my
did it-
network suck now? They have no idea what's going on. Can we just make that a DevConf question? Do you want to import this stuff now? If not, run this,
Yeah.
run job this.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, that would be good work. And then otherwise, fix bugs.
All right, thanks for coming.